control, their incompetence has led to mountains of uncollected rubbish piling up on every street, so vast that it can be seen from satellites orbiting space. It is nothing short of a disgrace and a damning indictment of Labour's inability.
The WASPy women fought one of the most sustained and passionate campaigns for justice that I can remember, year in, year out. We did promise them that we would give them justice. I understand the issue about the cost, but does the Prime Minister really understand how let down WASPy women feel?
I do understand the concern, of course I do. I set out the history, Mr. Speaker, but the research is clear that 90% of those impacted did know about the change. And in those circumstances, the taxpayer simply can't afford the burden of tens of billions of pounds of compensation. But I do understand.
Henry, I never ceased to be amazed at the way that politicians think that we're all absolutely and utterly stupid, to the point where they do these little videos to make out like, oh, we're so friendly and we know so many local people that we're going to go and prove ourselves to be very, very friendly with them, and they're going to love us. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, you feel a bit sorry for them, to be honest. Back 100 years ago, before the invention of moving pictures, they could just be their sort of odd, slightly aristocratic selves,
yes,
and nobody really minded, and they addressed people from a stage. But now we live in an age when people expect that kind of not intimacy necessarily, but they expect people to be making that sort of connection. But at the same time, because cameras are everywhere now, because anything can be tweeted or filmed and put on the internet, they have to stage manage it to within an inch of their lives. Because, in fairness, how do the media treat a gaffe, right? If you have a politician who actually meets a voter in an uncontrolled context,
yes,
their poor spads are tearing their hair out.
They have abandoned the WASPy women, leaving them without compensation they deserve. They have turned their backs on pensioners by failing to support the...
Have you ever witnessed a deputy so unruly, so relentless in both words and presence, that the Prime Minister himself could neither lift his head nor utter a reply? Imagine a representative delivering blow after blow until the chamber itself falls into stunned silence, leaving an entire government humiliated and stripped of authority. The assault grew so savage that even the President was forced to step in, not to calm the debate, but to salvage the last fragments of dignity for Keir Starmer. So, who was bold enough to pull this off? What exactly did this defiant lawmaker unleash that left Starmer gasping and defeated? In this report, we reveal the moment. It began as an ordinary parliamentary session, the Prime Minister taking questions as usual. A routine exchange until one independent MP from Ubican seized the floor. The room shifted instantly. From his first words, it was clear he hadn't come for casual remarks or polite sparring. He had come to dismantle Starmer in full view of the chamber, with Trevannis deputies watching as their leader was publicly taken apart.
Mr. Speaker, this Labour government has failed the British public at every turn.
Yes, straightforward. No warm-up, no polite framing, just a brutal and well-earned strike. Starmer's record is not merely a disappointment. It is a betrayal of the very citizens he pretends to defend. Every choice reeks of surrender, compromise, and cowardice. This is not the work of a champion of workers. It is a sterile, manufactured facade, signed off by a boardroom elite, a Blairite echo that spits in the faces of those who once believed in genuine reform. Instead, he parades himself as the people's favorite, feigning concern that simply isn't there. Henry, I never cease to be stunned by how politicians treat the public like fools, so much so that they film contrived clips, hoping we'll believe. Oh, look how approachable we are, see how many people we greet, surely they'll adore us. It's absurd, isn't it? Almost pitiful, honestly. A century ago, before cinema was even imagined, they could hide behind their vaguely aristocratic airs and speak at a distance from a stage. Few cared. But now the expectation has shifted. Not necessarily intimacy, but some form of authentic But I know this much, the women of WASPy trusted the system. And Starmer, with his hollow promises and empty words, abandoned them, left them in the dustbin of politics. This was no minor oversight. It was a moral failure of the highest order. The deputy didn't just raise the issue, he exposed it for what it was: betrayal.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Ali, it was a combination of being shocked, stunned, angry, and in no small measure disappointed.
You say you're disappointed. I mean, you know, you've been an MP for, a few months. Mm-hmm. Did you expect to be on TV saying that you're disappointed with the government this quickly?
Certainly not. Yesterday's decision, as much as it was a shock, it's completely wrong. This is a historical injustice that WASPy women have faced. We campaigned in opposition to correct that injustice, and now that we're in power, we really should...
Certainly not. Yesterday's decision, as shocking as it may be, was flat out wrong. A historical injustice against women, one we fought to correct while in opposition, and one that should have been corrected the moment Labour took power. But the brave deputy did not stop there. He came prepared, list in hand, tightening the noose around Starmer's throat with every word. Then came the second blow, fuel allocation.
It was his decision, and his decision alone, to award a train driver on £65,000 a pay rise of almost £10,000. And it was also his decision that a pensioner living on just £13,000 will have their winter fuel allowance removed. So can the Prime Minister explain to Britain's low-income pensioners why he has taken money away from them whilst at the same time given more money to highly...
And I remind him that we inherited absolute chaos from the party opposite. We lost an average of 3 million working days a year to strikes under his watch. And you cannot fix the economy if the trains don't work, and you can't fix the economy if the NHS isn't working. And when it comes to winter fuel payments, they're having a competition, as I understand. They're going to be voting later on today. Well, his shadow housing minister, we found this. She's the favourite, I think. Some of them will be probably voting for her this afternoon. She said, her words, "I have people in my constituency telling me they don't need winter fuel payments. Why do we not have a more sophisticated mechanism for mean testing?" That's the favourite, I think, in the contest that...
£22 billion of money is a huge amount to find in a year.
Yeah.
But by leaving it, not doing it, in my view, we ran the risk of losing control of the economy. And if there's one thing which, in my view, has hit pensioners harder than anything in the last few years, it's when inflation went through the roof,
right,
because the last government lost control of the economy. I'm not going to let that happen to pensioners ever again.
I want to introduce you to Chrissy. She's a pensioner who's a regular viewer of Good Morning Britain. She has got in touch with us. She was an NHS nurse for 25 years. She's on the full state pension, which puts her just a few pounds over the threshold for pension credit. Yeah. She's about to lose her winter fuel allowance. She has arthritis. She estimates her fuel bills are about to go up by £40 a month this winter, and she is dreading it because she does not feel she's going to be able to put the heating on. She voted for you, but she feels let down. Would you like to take this opportunity to say sorry to pensioners like Chrissy?
Well, I am really concerned that we've been put in this position. Mm-hmm. When you inherit an economy with £22 billion missing, it is a really difficult set of choices.
Do you want to use this moment to apologise to retirees like Chrissy? Because I am genuinely concerned about what is happening. Inheriting an economy with £22 billion missing is no easy task, but what Starmer chose to do was punish the most vulnerable instead of showing any compassion. Do you know what a truly difficult choice looks like? Choosing between heating and eating at 80 years old. Yet under Starmer, the Labour Party treats budgetary respectability as more important than human lives. This is not leadership, it is negligence in a tailored suit. The deputy laid it all bare. The Labour Party has lost its soul. But he didn't stop there. Before we move on, tell us, did you enjoy the video? If so, like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exclusive coverage of the revolutionary changes shaking British politics. Now, let's continue.
They have let down children by keeping a two-child benefit cap in place, and they will inflict further hardship on the most vulnerable by slashing £5 billion.
Yes, but putting that aside, failing to act now risks losing control of the economy entirely. And if there is one thing that has hit retirees the hardest in recent years, it is soaring inflation, an explosion caused by the previous government losing its grip. I will never allow this to happen again.
And that's why we're having a row at the moment about tough choices. Yep. Because we need the stability in our economy is absolutely vital as a stepping stone to getting onto those missions.
So when people say, look, you should be making all these spending commitments and...
Well, my first reaction, we keep saying collectively as a party, we've got to take tough decisions. And in the abstract, everyone says, that's right, Keir. And then we get a tough decision. We've been in one of those for the last few days, saying, well, don't like that. Can we just not make that one? I'm sure there's another tough decision somewhere else that we could make. But we have to take the tough decisions. And this isn't some sort of reflection on some focus group that says, we'd like Labour to have an economic straitjacket on. It's the fundamentals. Liz Truss was very different to others. She proved the thesis that if you make unfunded commitments, then the economy is damaged and working people pay the price.
Right, that could be tax or spending, right?
That could be tax. For her, it was unfunded tax cuts, but it could be unfunded spending. So if you want proof that unfunded commitments cause economic damage, which is then, visited on working people, you've got to...
Where is Starmer now, the man who once staged discussion groups, who delivered Machiavellian speeches about difficult choices as if he alone carried the weight of the nation? Gone. Vanished. When the questions bite, when the decisions matter, when the people demand answers, he is nowhere to be found. The mask of strategy, of intellect, of cold calculation has slipped. What remains is a hollow figure, stripped of his illusions, incapable of defending the very choices he forced upon the people.
And will he also today calm anxieties that he himself has raised for many of us, that the disability benefits for people who simply cannot work will not be cut?
Mr. Speaker, we will, of course, as I've just said, the principles, we will, of course, support those who need support, but also help those who can work into work. They'll be the guiding principles. But what we've inherited is shocking, and they ought to be silent. 1 in 8 young people not in education, work or training. That is a lost generation. That is their inheritance. They've got plenty to say now. They did nothing for 14 years and left this in...
Starmer knows this policy plunges children into poverty. He knows it's unjust, but he keeps it. Why? Because he desperately wants to appear tough, competent, and eligible in the eyes of the Daily Mail. And that is how we end up with the endless rhetoric about difficult choices, because supposedly, the stability of the economy must come first, above all else, to achieve these so-called missions. So when people say, you should honor all these budgetary commitments, the party collectively nods, agreeing in theory that hard choices are inevitable. But then the reality hits. Faced with real consequences, the response becomes
benefits. But perhaps the most immediate and visible failure, one that poses an immediate and direct health risk to the people of Birmingham, is the appalling financial mismanagement of Labour-run Birmingham City Council. After more than a decade of Labour control, their incompetence has led to mountains of uncollected rubbish piling up on every street, so vast that it can be seen from satellites orbiting space.
Mr. President, as I have said, we will uphold our principles. We will support those in need, but we will also assist those who can work in finding employment. These must remain our guiding values. But what we have inherited is shocking, and the previous government should remain silent. 1 in 8 young people neither study, work, nor train. A lost generation. That is their legacy. 14 years of inaction left the country hanging, and now we see the consequences. Starmer has gone further. Disabled citizens who relied on social benefits.
Birmingham is officially broke. The City Council, the largest local authority in Europe, is effectively bankrupt. Services for more than 1.1 million people are now under threat, and the Labour leadership under pressure to explain and apologise.
For anybody who's suffering across the city, anything that impacts them that the council has done wrong, we'll hold up our hands and we will say sorry for. We've seen local government being cut. We've had the council itself has lost over £1 billion worth of funding as a result of consecutive Conservative governments. This has been ongoing. It's not.
Birmingham is no longer under the control of the Labour Party. It has become a dystopian nightmare. And Starmer? He hides behind hollow slogans and glossy campaigns, pretending nothing is his responsibility. But make no mistake, it is his party, his leadership, his failure.
Think short of a disgrace and a damning indictment of Labour's inability to govern. Will the Prime Minister take urgent action to protect the public health and the people of Birmingham by immediately deploying the...
Order. We're meant to ask a quick question.
The deputy who dismantled Starmer pushed the session to the point where even the president of the chamber had to step in, allowing Starmer to save face. But by then, the damage was done. Starmer could repeat his talking points endlessly, yet the deputy had exposed an undeniable truth: he is unfit to govern. Not in the cities.
Well, I've said the situation in Birmingham Council is completely unacceptable, but he might want to tell his constituents that we've delivered 2 million extra appointments for the NHS, so waiting lists are coming down for his constituents. We've delivered the national living wage, a £1,400 increase, including for his constituents. We've got record investment into this country, growing the economy, including for his constituents.
Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Starmer's government stands rightly accused of abandoning children, pensioners, women, the poor, and entire cities. And his response? A half-hearted recitation of outdated statistics. Most of his so-called achievements are nothing more than cosmetic fixes, recycled policies from the Sunak era, delayed programs, and measures so superficial they barely touch the real needs of the people. He does not answer criticism. He dodges the questions because he no longer has a soul to defend. Do you agree with the deputy who called the Labour Party's performance a disgrace? Isn't it clear that Starmer is simply not the man capable of guiding Great Britain toward growth and prosperity? Share your thoughts in the comments. Should Starmer face daily scrutiny from all deputies so he truly understands the consequences of his actions? For more insight into British politics and its unfolding evolution, stay connected. Until the next video.